He who would trade liberty for some temporary security deserves neither liberty nor security. Welcome back to Philosophy and Maxims. We've just seen how Benjamin Franklin, again, more than 200 years ago, predicted the same routine we see all the time when there are big disasters in the world. Think back to 2001, right after the September 11 attacks. Bush brought in the Patriot Act. How many liberties did that restrict of the people? From the TSA in the airports, increasing the security measures so drastically. And remember, they weren't reduced after that. Think also about the freedoms that were taken away during that time.
As we wage the war on terror overseas, we're also going after the terrorists here at home. And one of the most important tools we have used to protect the American people is the Patriot Act. Patriot Act closed dangerous gaps in America's law enforcement and intelligence capabilities, gaps the terrorists exploited when they attacked us on September the 11th.
Today, the president signed a big new anti-terrorism bill that would expand the government's ability to track down terrorists, but at some cost.
Use these new powers. Some of them are being able to trace email messages from place to place, making it easier to surveil people for terrorist purposes, for intelligence purposes. It's the sharing of information between the intelligence gatherers, the CIA, the NSA, and other places, and the FBI. What they've done is they've lowered the wall between the two.
I think it was also Edward Bernays back in his classic propaganda book who talked about these strategies, about having a war that has no definite time frame. Think about the war on drugs. All the security measures that went into place, all the drastic measures. But it's a war that's not won. It still goes. There's no end timeline for a war like this. It's one of the ways they get around convincing the public into giving them more permissions, more restricting more liberties, and not having a final time frame where it goes back to normal. I only bring this up now that we're seeing all the restrictions come into place from the coronavirus especially. I'm not saying they're all bad things like staying inside. A lot of countries are now restricted. You can't even see more than one other person when you're out in public. Trying not to go outside in your car for travel, for work, all these different measures are put in place. But let's keep a very, very interested eye on what happens when all of this slowly starts to die down, when the curve is flattened, when it is safe to slowly start going back to work. What liberties are going to be different from before? Because these are the kind of things that have been happening throughout the centuries as a way for liberties to slowly erode. We've been warned many times, not just from Benjamin Franklin, but from people like P.A.T.R.I.O.T in his book, Road to Serfdom, and many other classic pieces of text like this. Just something to keep in mind. So always remember, think for yourself.